Hi guys, former Tory minister and former member of the Brexit Party, Anne Widdecombe, was challenged on actual benefits of Brexit when she appeared on the Matthew Wright show. The Brexiteer was asked if it was time to say sorry, following all the lies that were told about how great things would be if the UK left the European Union. We've seen a massive drop in GDP, and trade deals that were supposed to replace lost exports to the continent failed to achieve that. After the interview, Anne went on to Brexit-friendly GB News to complain that Matt was rude. Have a listen to this.
Is it time to say sorry, Anne?
No. First of all, it hasn't been a massive disaster. The only thing I regret about Brexit is that it was never done properly.
The wrong kind of Brexit.
No, let me finish. You've just had a very good spiel putting one side. Now just let me put the other.
The side that the newspapers don't put. That side, yeah. Go ahead, Anne. I'm all ears, genuinely.
Well, I do hope you are all ears. What I was saying was that we did not do Brexit properly. Not the wrong kind of Brexit. We just didn't do Brexit properly. For example, there were thousands and thousands, and I do mean thousands, of EU regulations which we could have got rid of over the course of the last 4 years. Nobody suggesting you do it in the first 4 minutes.
Could you just tell us which ones were bad? Because a lot of EU regulations are really sensible, so I'm just interested out of the thousands and thousands.
Well, I don't know.
So you don't know which...
She said, I don't know, and unfortunately she was cut off, but she said, I don't know.
Ones are bad, we just throw them all out.
I didn't say that. I'm sorry, Matthew.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not going to continue with this because I didn't say that.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood, sorry.
Yes, good. I'm glad you did. What I was saying to you was that there are thousands of EU regulations. For example, it's taken us 4 years to finally ban live exports.
Now, I've actually reached out to the European Commission to verify whether this is true or not. Can EU member states ban live exports of animals? Now, I haven't received a response yet, but when I do, I'll post it in the description of this video. But let's take a step back here. Now, Anne Widdecombe has said that she says that leaving the European Union allows the UK to ban the live export of animals, for example, cattle, sheep, whatever. And I'm supportive of that. I think it's abhorrent that that we still export live animals around the world. It's under terrible conditions. It's inhumane, and it should end. But if it turns out to be the case that the UK didn't have to leave the European Union to do this, that's it's not a Brexit benefit. But if it is the case that you need to leave the European Union to achieve this begs the question, why the hell didn't Anne Widdecombe bring this up when she was a member of the European Parliament? When she was a member of the Brexit Party? Why didn't she campaign with others to end live exports? She didn't. So why is she bringing it up as a Brexit benefit?
We could have done that in the first 6 months. The fiddling around with visa rules that we see now, other countries which have borders with the EU don't have those problems. What we have is a determination to make it as difficult for us as possible.
So we're back to the old, they're punishing us because we left the European Union. When will Brexiteers get away from this idea that the European Union is angry with Britain for having the brass neck to decide to leave the European Union? There's no evidence to support this case, but they continually bang this drum of, well, because we decided to leave, the European Union is making it difficult.
And instead of whimpering and saying, oh dear, we should give up our sovereignty in order to have a faster visa queue, what we should be doing is taking a much stronger stand and saying, right, you make it as difficult as possible, but we're going ahead.
What the hell does that mean? Is she saying that we should do the same? That Britain should do the same? That Britain should make it difficult for EU citizens to come to Britain, to work or for meetings or whatever? So Brexiteers are supportive of damaging the tourism industry or business industry? What is she on about?
I just ask about the politicians who told us things before the referendum, which have subsequently become patently untrue. So Michael Gove saying Brexit would be good for the environment. We've just legitimised the use of pesticides that kill bees that the EU has banned. Daniel Hannan promised business would have access to the single market if we voted leave. We didn't. He then pushed on for the hardest possible Brexit. Boris Johnson said our fishermen would be supported. They're £70 million a year worse off. I could go on and on. Should we not have some kind of apology for those lies or mistruths, Anne?
Well, the biggest lies that were told before the referendum were actually told by the Remain campaign, led by the then Prime Minister Lord Cameron. He wasn't a Lord then, of course, who said very specifically, and it was all there, that if we dared to vote yes, never mind leave, if we actually just voted to leave, there was going to be an immediate austerity budget, there was going to be an immediate rise in unemployment.
Notice that when the lies were presented to her, she didn't even acknowledge them. She started with, well, what about the other side? What aboutism? What about what David Cameron said? Now, I don't know whether David Cameron actually said there would be an austerity budget, but if you look at what happened after the UK left, not after 2016, but when the UK left, what happened? Well, deprived areas that used to get EU funding, that ended. Those deprived areas, parts of Wales, for example, have not seen any money or seen very little. The UK government had promised, the Brexiteer government had promised to match EU funding. That didn't happen. That was a lie. When it came to farmers, they were supposed to get equivalent subsidies that when they left the European Union, left the Common Agricultural Policy, the UK government was going to compensate them. That didn't happen either. So in a sense, an austerity budget was put in place. There was less money available. There was less levelling up than before the European Union. So what David Cameron was saying was true from a certain point of view. David Cameron was in a position where he was the Prime Minister, so he could have put in place an austerity budget, but then he left office.
There was going to be an immediate collapse of British business. It's all there on the record. This is what they would...
So, yes, Remainers said that if the UK leaves the European Union, there will be a collapse in business. But what happened instead is that the UK hasn't fully implemented Brexit. We've seen 5 times import checks have been cancelled. If you're not checking imports, of course they're going to flow in, but you're going to have all the consequences of that. But you're not going to see the real consequences of Brexit until you start implementing all the checks and regulations. So parts of Brexit have been delayed. It's a drip process. People believed back in 2016 that Brexit would be implemented from day one. That would have been insane. And if it had been implemented from day one, it would have been an absolute disaster. But by spreading the disaster across many years doesn't mean that it isn't a disaster.
Telling us none of that happened.
But unemployment is going up, Anne.
Not even you.
Unemployment is up, Anne. And unemployment is up.
It was never up when we were in the EU.
This thing about unemployment, this is something that's within the remit of the government. This is nothing really to do with the European Union.
So it went down when we were in the Union. 4 million with Margaret Thatcher to 1 million just before we left. I mean, you're just not telling the truth, Anne, are you?
Matthew, right, what you won't do is let me have a word in edgeways.
You've had 4 minutes non-stop, Anne. I'm just asking questions. Have a lovely morning yourself, Anne.
It's pointless. It's pointless speaking to somebody like Anne Widdecombe because she's a demagogue. She's an ideologue. She doesn't care about the truth. You saw it there. She was challenged with the lies that Michael Gove spread, Daniel Hannan spread, Boris Johnson spread, and she didn't even listen. She didn't even acknowledge them. There weren't lies that she spread. You know, it's one thing to try and defend your own lies, but to ignore somebody else's lies is pretty pathetic. But then, once again, this is Anne Widdecombe. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.